This is your host, Tia. This is your host, Tia. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Top 10. Live. Geek Vibes Nation. Geek Vibes Nation. Nation. The Top 10. The Top 10.
I can hear you typing.
What?
I said I could hear you typing. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing Top 10 by Geek Vibes Nation. As always, I'm your host, Tia, and I have with me tonight, we're actually recording this at night, which we never do, so I have with me tonight Brittany. How are you doing today, Brittany?
I'm good. It does feel a little bit odd when I'm like, oh yeah, the sun should be like barely poking out of the clouds, the dawn, like the break of dawn, like doing the podcast. So it's kind of funny just seeing how dark it is outside.
I'm used to your update on all of your cats piling up on you first thing in the morning.
I will say, only Toby's right next to me. Maddie's on the windsill, but when I initially came home and I was so exhausted, I had all three kittens on me, and Toby and Maddie was like close by, and I was like, I'm never going to get out of bed ever again. This is the life.
Well, so Brittany and I are recording this at nighttime because yesterday was Easter. So Brittany, happy Easter. Hope you had a good time. I know that your plans kind of fell through a little, but I hope you still had a great Sunday.
It was good. Did a lot of work, but I mean, I'm still alive, so that's good, right?
Yes, so we went over my grandparents' house, small get-together, and it was a nice occasion, very full, ate a lot, of course. You can't go to my grandparents' house without walking away having eaten a lot.
I'm ready to go back to New York as soon as possible again, just for like your family's cooking. No, I'm not ready to explode.
Yeah, it was nice. We brought my dog, and she had a good time as well. So it was a good Sunday. It was a good Easter.
I was going to say, I will never forget the story of me, like, because I was especially around the time where I couldn't eat a lot, and barely making a dent in the food your mother had given me, and I was like, okay, I'm making progress, and your mom walking over and fucking, like, piling me up again, and the look on my face when you're like, Mom, look at her. She's not going to be able to finish that. And I just remember my stomach dropping because I was like, I don't want to be rude because it was really good, but I was like, I can't finish this. Because it's Italian, it's like good hearty meals, right? And I'm sitting there like, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Barely make a dent. Your mother fucking she like doubled the plate. And I was just like, I think you could see the panic in my eyes.
That's just how it goes in the Covino Fabi residence. But yeah, I do remember that when you come to New York, you gotta come ready to eat. That's like I have a friend, Sarah, who lives over in England, and portions pretty much all around the world. I don't even want to say just Europe, all around the world. Because when Cindy and I went to Mexico a few years ago, I mean, the portions were significantly smaller than they are here. But, again, they're smaller in Europe. So when my friend Sarah came from England over here, I mean, she was astonished by everything. Like, we went to one restaurant, she got a salad, and to me, it was just an average-looking salad. And she was just like, oh, my God, it's so big. This is so huge. And so, I guess that's just how Americans are. It's just portions are just fucking massive.
It's like my French professor. He cracks me up because this kind of like same note but different notes. And he was like, and everything that has to do with cuisine, like when we're learning like, the vocab for like, cuisine and everything. And he's like, he's like trying to say we don't have a glass of wine before noon. And he just got this look like we have glasses of wine before noon. I was like, oh, okay, sir.
Whatchamacallit? It's so funny. You know that expression, it's 5 o'clock somewhere? Whatchamacallit? I don't know why that just reminded me. So the other day I went out to lunch with Cindy, right? We went out to this like Indian restaurant near my, like kind of near my house, not like directly near, but you know, not very far away. So we're sitting down and it's lunchtime, so it's probably around like 1:30 or something. And the waiter comes over to us and he's like, okay, what do you have? And you're like, you know what? We're both going to have drinks because who cares? It's a Saturday. And we're like, and Cindy goes, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And the waiter goes, oh, have you guys been to Key West before? And we're like, no. And he's like, oh, that's like an expression there. And I sat there and go, that's an expression everywhere. He's like, no, that's like a real expression down in Key West. And I'm like, well, probably because it's always sunny and beachy and everyone's just drinking as soon as they wake up at like 9 a.m. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Oh man, that's like when we go on cruises and stuff, but it's like, yeah, there's alcohol, and I'll have just woke up, right? It'll be like, you got up early on a cruise because you're like, oh, I got to make the best of the day. And it's like 8, 9 in the morning. I'm going to walk around the boat. Everybody's kind of waking up. And there's already people by the pool with fucking drinks in their hand and beer. The smoking sections are, you got the people smoking with their alcohol. And I'm like, man, you really are like, this is my cruise. I am going to enjoy myself.
I'll be really honest, right? I know I always refer back to the vacation that I took with Cindy, but that realistically is like the only vacation that I went to. It's say just a friend like out of the country. Like, of course I go and see you, but that's like going to another state. Like her and I went to Mexico, and that was like, I think I was around like 24 at the time. And for some reason we always woke up around 7. We're on vacation. We're waking up early, right? We wake up, we have our coffee in our hotel room, and we immediately go downstairs to the pool beach area and order a frickin' like gin and tonic and then just sit outside. Like, we were definitely that epitome of, we're on vacation, time means nothing. I'm going to have a cocktail.
You're like, I'm going to live it up.
I'm going to live it up. But yeah, this top 10 is not about alcohol, surprisingly enough. But it actually is about something that we haven't ever done before, but I feel like we should have, and that is the top 10 Black Widow moments from the MCU. And this is in honor of the fact that they just dropped a new trailer for the upcoming Black Widow movie. I forgot the new date, right? But Disney finally got wise, and they're doing a hybrid release. So not only will Black Widow be available in theaters, but it'll actually be available on Disney Plus as well for a fee. So they're not doing what HBO Max is doing and offering it as a part of the general streaming package. You're going to have to pay extra, which I'm fine with. I've been saying this for a while. I'm just drop it on Disney Plus or I stop postponing it. So we're finally going to get Black Widow.
I'm so excited because what's it been 2 years ago now? Was it 2 years ago that
we have not had a Marvel movie since 2019.
I remember I was so excited because Black Widow was supposed to come out in my birth month, right? And I was and we were still trying to set up for seeing each other. And it was and then everything hit. And I was like, well, maybe we can watch it together somehow. And then that's when the Fire Nation attacked. And we got freaking COVID.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, as soon as HBO Max, right, as soon as Warner Brothers said, hey, for 2020, or no, for 2021, right, we're going to release all of our stuff on HBO Max as well as theaters. And some people gave them shit, but I thought that that was actually a good idea. I'm like, realistically, we don't know when any of this is ending. You know, it's all stretching so long. Theaters aren't open throughout the country. Like some places have theaters open, but like say in New York, there's no theaters open. So, you know, how long are you going to keep pushing your movies before it starts ruining plans or it starts, you know, even becoming irrelevant? So to me, I was like, this is a good idea. I want to see Black Widow. I can't wait for it to come out. And then with Black Widow coming out, that means we'll get to finally get into phase 4 of the MCU. We'll see Shang-Chi. We'll see the Eternals, Doctor Strange 2, Spider-Man 3. Like, these are great movies that were all postponed due to, you know, not only the pandemic, but Black Widow continuously getting pushed back.
Yes, they had to push this back, though, right? Because they really needed the Black Widow movie to push it off, right?
Well, yeah, you know, even a Black Widow movie is technically a prequel. It is going to, you know, introduce things like Yelena, right? The other Black Widow who is probably going to be taking over Natasha's role, is going to be in the upcoming Hawkeye movie, the upcoming Hawkeye show, which means that she'll probably be the Black Widow in future Avengers products, you know?
Now, if Alexi dies, I riot. Because I'm almost positive he's going to die.
I have a feeling that, like, everyone except Natasha, because obviously it's a prequel, so we know that she's going to live. I have a feeling that Natasha and Yelena are going to be the only ones who survive. And prior, I thought Yelena was going to die as well, but they've literally seen, like, set photos of the actress on set for the Hawkeye series, which takes place after Endgame. So I'm like, okay, Yelena definitely lives. But I don't know about Alexi and Melina.
That was the whole thing, like, you know, where they're like, oh, it was like pretend. Like, you know, from the trailer I got was Alexi pretending to be their father at some point.
Okay. So it's like, you know, the whole thing of like sleeper agents, you know, there's a show called The Americans, which is literally about these like 2 Russian spies that were said that they were going to go to America, and their whole like, you know, story is that they're a married couple and they end up having a child and they live as these happy Americans, but they're not really like a happy married couple. They're 2 Russian Soviet spies, you know, pretending, just waiting for like the order. So I got the whole, you know, that's what they were doing, because, you know, the Red Room, the Black Widow program is Russian, and, you know, the Red Guardian is the whole Soviet Union product. So it's like I got the whole, you know, Alexi and Melina, played by Rachel Weisz, pretended to be a couple, and Natasha and Yelena were their pretend children.
I remember I remember that she says something like, oh, it was pretend, and, you know, what's her name, Yelena?
Yelena.
Yeah, that she said, she was like, well, it wasn't fake to me, and I'm like, ugh. And then you see Alexi, like my girl's so strong, and I'm like, yes, yes.
Yeah, it looks like to me from what I got, where it's like, again, they were all put together for appearances, right? And then Natasha left because she was like, this was all just part of our training. This wasn't ever real, you know? And then she left to probably go join S.H.I.E.L.D. And when she comes back, Yelena's like, yeah, we were put together, but that doesn't, you know, negate the fact that you felt like a sister to me.
So sad.
Right? It's going to be sad. The movie's going to be sad. I know it already. Like, I know it so much in my bones, in my heart. But either way, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for Black Widow. I'm glad that we're finally getting Marvel. I'm ready to be heard again. But, you know, I've been watching the Marvel shows, so I'm already hurt. Like, WandaVision hurt. WandaVision hurt my soul, especially the end of WandaVision. You know, that hurt. And Falcon and Winter Soldier isn't hurting yet because we're only on episode 3, but it could. it probably will at some point. So, I've been hurt already. What'd you say?
I feel like there's so much planning right now to make everything fit together just right for like an end goal again. Because I feel like the first phase and the second phase were like a masterpiece, right? How many phases have we had now?
3. So
the 3 led up to that final like this is what everything was working towards. This is everything, and so to see it gone, it's like the next bit's gonna have to like live up to it because it's too big of a cash cow for them to just stop now.
Well, that was the thing. People are like, they should end with Endgame. And I even saw some people like, I'm going to stop watching after Endgame. And I'm like, if you think that Disney is going to give up like the thing that has made them so much money, you're delusional. And there is so much story left to tell. Like we haven't even got X-Men yet. We haven't gotten the Fantastic Four yet. There's other characters we still haven't gotten yet. It's like, dude, these come from comics. Their world is insanely vast. Like, we haven't even gotten, like, to the tipping point.
Well, there's got to be that pride moment for Stan Lee for when, Marvel was, people still love Marvel, but, it wasn't at the forefront anymore. Like, I was always like, I like these characters, or there was video games with it, but I didn't think about it. But this really gave birth to it being like household, like it was already household, but like the new generation knowing about these characters and loving them.
I mean, Stan Lee was forced to sell off some of his characters because Marvel wasn't making money. That's why, for years, the X-Men had to be separated from the Avengers, and Spider-Man was separate, and blah, blah, blah. There's a reason why there's like 3 or 4 different studios that all owned, Marvel characters as opposed to DC that's owned by Warner Brothers exclusively, right? It's like there's a reason why we kind of have this whole thing that makes it a little complicated. So it is great to know that like Stan Lee could see that these characters are beloved and start seeing these characters come back together. So I'm happy. I'm a Marvel fan, you know it. Like, the Marvel universe makes me happy. I love everything that I'm given for the most part. Like, some people just can't be happy, obviously. Like, I'll tell you this, me, right? I love Marvel, but I'm not the biggest comic book reader. So I really don't have any expectations, but people had like a lot of expectations with WandaVision. And when those expectations weren't met in the finale, suddenly everyone's like, this whole show was crap, even though they loved it week by week and were praising it. But because they didn't get that like little, I guess, like validation at the end, it was like all of a sudden you saw all these people turn on WandaVision. But me having like no expectations and just loving the story, I was like, I thought it was a great ending. I love the way it ended.
I think we're really gonna they're like, I'm sorry we made you feel, you heartless bastards.
Brittany, it was so sad and stressful, but it was like so sad and bittersweet. Wanda and Vision is always going to be a tragic story.
I was say you can't tell me I won't be stressed out with that show.
Yeah, you would definitely be stressed out. But let's get into the actual top 10, right? Which is our top 10 Black Widow moments from the MCU. Also, really quick before we get into that, new trailer for the Loki show just released. I'm excited for that. But before we get into the number 10, of course, as always, we have to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Stranger Damies. As you know, Stranger Damies is the D&D podcast from the Main Damie family of podcasts. I talk about them every week. They're amazing guys. Dan, Mark, and Ant are all amazing. They're members of Geek Vibes Nation. They also have another really great podcast called They Call This a Movie, which I listen to all the time. I even got my aunt to listen to them after they did Leprechaun in the Hood, which apparently, yeah, it was so funny. My aunt was like, I love that movie. And I said to myself, well, my friends over at They Call This a Movie did a podcast like roasting it. So I sent it to her and she listened to the whole thing and she's like, oh, that's not the movie I was thinking about. I was thinking about like Leprechaun Goes Back to the Hood or something. I was like, oh my God, there was another.
There was another one? What the heck?
Yeah. So, but anyway, please make sure that you go check them out. You can find their D&D podcast over at Stranger Damies, both on Twitter and Instagram. They're amazing people. Make sure you tell them that Tia sent you. And yeah, just support awesome podcasts. That's all we ask. But Brittany, let's get into it. What's your number 10?
I'm going to go ahead and go with this one, even though it is the sad one, just because I feel like there's so many better scenes, but also because it's slightly comical to me in a fucked up way. And I'm going to have to go with Natasha dying.
I'm going to admit that it was a little comical in a messed up way.
It's because, okay, you have two characters, right? And it's like, at first it was like, I would have felt really something if Hawkeye had done it, right? Because, yes, he did have a family, and if it was like, it would have been the Tony Stark of it, right? Like, right. I feel like that would have been like, oh, this family man, this man giving up his life for everybody else to come back and for his family to be safe. Yeah, the sacrifice. But I feel like if that had happened, then Tony's would have happened. It would have not had the same effect. So I guess that's probably another reason, too, for everything. But having these two grown-ass people trying to fling themselves off of this fucking cliff, and then they're like, no me, and they're just, like, holding them there. It was so kind of weird that I didn't feel the full impact of her dying until later on. I was just like, I remember, I think I was like by myself. I think I went and saw it by myself because I think everyone was working and, you're in New York. I think I ended up like looking at someone that I kind of become friends with, like in like the movie friend, when you go by yourself. I just looked at her and I was like, what? And she's like looking at me like, the fuck just happened? What just happened? And so like, to me, I'm just like, I don't know. It was funny. But I do feel like it was a big impact. And it's like, in the more serious note, it's like, she did make the sacrifice. She got the soul stone. She was the reason they were able to, bring this all together. And so for the comical reason is why it's down so low, because I feel like that could have been a little more like tear-jerking, but I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I couldn't be upset about it, but I did feel like it was a good scene in the fact of like showing what she would sacrifice for everyone.
So remember in Endgame, right, when they're discovering like where each of the Infinity Stones are and where they have to go and get them, and Nebula's like, one of them's on Volmir I forget how to like pronounce it, right? And Natasha and Clint go, and it like didn't even register that they were say like going there. I was like, oh, they're gonna go get the stone, and like then they're gonna come back, and then you remember like, oh wait, that's where like Thanos flung Gamora off of a fucking ledge, right? And then you realize that, and then you realize one of them has to die. But again, you sit there and go, well, they're Avengers. They're gonna figure out a way that neither of them have to die. And you're like, oh no, one of them's gonna die. And they're both sitting there, and they're like, and I guess that's supposed to show how like good of friends they are, or something, that they have like even in that moment they had to have a little like tussle and everything. But it was a little like comical because it's like, I'm going to be the one who sacrifices himself. No, I'm going to be the one who sacrifices him.
No, I'm going to be.
And the fact that like, so it was like a little funny in the way that it was framed. But then the serious part goes in where she leaps off and where Clint catches her. And he's like looking at her like, don't do this. And she's like, it's okay, let me go. And you realize like that it all comes full circle, right? Because in the beginning of that movie where she's saying like, this is my family, I can't be just okay with us being okay with this having happened. Like, I need to get them back. It's important that we get everyone back. So it's like, people have made the argument where it's like, well, Clint had a family. It's like, Natasha had a family too, and they said it too. Like the Avengers were her family. So I don't know. I hate how glossed over it is in Endgame. Like,
it's almost like, oh, we just got rid of a minor character kind of death. You know what I mean? Like that death
Natasha
was
important. And I was like, Natasha's been around since day one. I just felt that she needed more than that. And like her solo movie, like as excited as I am for it, sometimes feels like a consolation prize. Like, hey, we killed her off, but here's a prequel. And it's like, well, I don't want a prequel. I want something that's like in the continuity of the actual timeline.
I guess, there was something to add to that. It was just like they had like one sad scene where everybody's like sad about it, and then it was like done. You know what I mean? It was okay, back to business, boys.
Yeah, that's exactly how it felt. Like, all right, sons, let's go. I forget who I was talking to. It was probably Jawan, where I was like, why didn't Nebula warn them? And I think he like pointed out saying, Nebula knew obviously what was required, but she knew also by telling them that then, they would have to have this like big argument and discussion. It was probably better to let them find out for themselves.
Yeah, they could make that decision for themselves.
But they didn't even have a funeral for Natasha. Like they had a funeral for Tony, and we've heard Tony's name since then, right? Like in Spider-Man 2, Far From Home, Peter was all sad about Tony dying, rightfully so. But has anyone mentioned Natasha once since that happened?
No, they haven't. It's like, oh, well, what a shame.
And again, like, I'm watching the shows, right? I watch WandaVision. I'm watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. They're not, Natasha has not been brought up once.
It's like you could make the argument that she made just as big a sacrifice as Tony, because like she had to willingly throw herself off, and it's like I get that he did that, like he did the final snap, but everybody has like Tony's face plastered everywhere as like the savior, and it's like she did too,
They wouldn't have gotten the Soul Stone if it weren't for the fact that she sacrificed her life for it. And it's like, you're right, where are the shrines of Black Widow?
She's so undervalued.
That's just not right. I don't like it. But I think it's a good way to start off the top 10. My number 9 is actually going to be another Clint and Natasha moment, and it's very small. But it's so iconic, I feel like, in the MCU, especially in the first phase of the MCU. And it's them in the first Avengers movie when Natasha goes, this reminds me of Budapest. And Clint goes, you and I remember Budapest very differently.
Right.
And
I quick interjection, like Hawkeye I don't much care for, but his interactions with Natasha are great.
His character is made better by his friendship with Natasha. And I really felt that. But I love that scene because it's like they're literally fighting aliens in New York City, and the fact that like Natasha could be so casual that she's like, oh, this just kind of reminds me of like another day at the office, and Clint is like, girl, what the fuck are you talking about? There are aliens coming out of the sky. There weren't aliens in Budapest.
Right. I'm gonna say, isn't it in Budapest where they met and tried to kill each other?
I mean, I think that's what they like allude to always. The whole thing was that wasn't Clint meant to kill Natasha because she was a KGB agent, and then decided instead to kind of recruit her for S.H.I.E.L.D.
I really want to rewatch the first Thor movie because I didn't like it and I didn't like much pay attention to it. But I would like to go back because what the fuck was Clint even doing at that time?
Well, Clint was a SHIELD agent, and his whole thing was like he was supposed to be like, Hawkeye. He was up in the sky keeping an eye down, like he wasn't on the ground or anything like that. So his whole thing pretty much was just being like an assassin slash guard, essentially, making sure like Thor didn't do anything. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. 'Cause I was just trying to remember exactly what he was. Which reminds me, in the Black Widow movie, I'm really actually excited to see who's behind the mask. But I will be pissed off if I have another Kylo Ren situation.
I think it's because okay, right? I know this is like a long time ago, but what was it, 2-3 years ago when they announced like the Black Widow cast, right? And Kevin Feige had everyone come up. He had he had Scarlett Johansson there, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, Florence Pugh, and then this guy, and forgive me, I don't know his name. It was like OT something, right? There was this other guy, and Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, like, this is your cast for Black Widow, right? And so in the trailers, right, Scarlett Johansson's obviously Natasha, Florence Pugh is Yelena, Rachel Weisz is Melina, David Harbour is Red Guardian. Where's OT? He was on the stage when they announced, but we have not seen him once in the trailer. And I'm like, I bet you he's playing Taskmaster, because they haven't even announced like who he's playing. And they do that sometimes in movies to be like cheeky. But I'm like, all right, he's the only person who is on that stage who got announced, and he doesn't have a film credit. And you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I bet you that's Taskmaster.
Like, because I'm like trying to look, and it doesn't seem like anybody knows who's playing him, but that would make sense. I'm just like, I am so sick of having these cool-ass mask characters only to be heavily disappointed when they take it off.
Brittany's going to riot as a result.
I will. You don't even know.
But yeah, so my number 9 is, this reminds me of Budapest just because it's such an iconic scene. It's funny. It kind of like gives you this little light humor in the middle of a battle. And I feel like as if it was just so like mysterious for all of the MCU, where you're like, what happened in Budapest? So that's going to be my number 9. Brittany, what's your number 8?
Let me look here. I think I was gonna put, I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do her escaping the Hulk. In
in the first Avengers?
Yes, because, like, I can't remember what caused him to get angry, because she was like, it's when they got attacked. It was when they got attacked, remember, they fell down. And could you imagine how fucking terrifying that would be to be like, yeah, I kind of know him, I brought him here, it's fine. And I think he was mad at her because she was the reason he came there in the first place. Yeah, so it's kind of like
just chilling, like, just kind of living in the outskirts of the world, essentially.
Yeah. And so when that happened, and you just see him turn, and you're like thinking, oh no. Oh, no. Because it's one thing to have the Hulk after you, but I feel like to have him in such a tight space where any kind of movement will just kill you would be terrifying. And I really think that really showed how very, like, how skilled Natasha is to be able to get away from him in that kind of situation, because you have to think about it, powered up or not, or, having some kind of serum in you to, like, survive something like that. I mean, that just takes skill. So, I love that scene, because I feel like when she got out and you're thinking, oh yeah, she about got fucked up, but how many people could go, oh yeah, I went face to face with the Hulk and survived, without getting limbs ripped off? I know Thor did, but he's a literal god, Tia. I mean, come on now.
That scene is terrifying when you watching it for the first time and you see him like unable to control himself, and she's, I think, trapped under something at first, and she's just looking at him like so begging, where she's like, don't fucking do this, man. I don't want to get ripped apart. And yeah, no, so it was really terrifying, and I love that she was able to get away. I have to say, like, I don't know if you, like, visually remember that scene, but there's such a great visual of Natasha running out and the Hulk running after her, and, you know, his body's so massive that it's, like, literally, like, crashing into, like, say, the walls around him. It's such a great, like, visual scene. And I was terrified for her. I was like, he's gonna catch up to her. Oh my God.
I feel like the next time we see each other, we need to have a big Marvel marathon and watch them in like the canon order of them. You know, like what made the most sense. Because I would love to see a lot of these scenes again. Because that is the one thing. There's so many movies that's like, you know, hard to kind of organize where you want to rewatch. But I would love to watch Winter Soldier again. That has to be one of the best ones, and I think that's one of the ones I've seen the fewest times.
Oh my God. The Winter Soldier is my favorite movie in the MCU. I think it's it holds up the best and it's just so good. So I agree with you on that one. It's just so fucking amazing. Whatchamacallit, but yeah, I love Natasha escaping the Hulk. I like the first Avengers movie. If you go back and rewatch it, it is a little campy at times, but I think that the first Avengers movie holds up better than Avengers Age of Ultron, in my opinion.
You know what I think it is? I think for the first Avengers for me is kind of like my opposite critique of the DC. I felt like it was just very bright and colorful. Like, weirdly
Right.
bright and colorful.
Well, Captain America's like uniform was my least favorite uniform in that movie, and that was so bright. It was so bright and like blue and everything. And I mean, it did, I think, look more traditional to his, I guess, comic book accurate one, but I didn't like it. I was like, please take that off. Please put something else on. Anything other than that. I'd rather see you go toe-to-toe with Loki in like sweats and a t-shirt than wearing that freaking uniform.
I like the transformation we saw with Captain America from being kind of that Boy Scouty, like, no cussing to, you know, being grungy almost, like being very, like, almost, like, very worn soldier type.
What's the thing? Oh my God. Last week we were talking about American Gods and I forget what you said. What's the quote where it's like, I'll have your daughter home by 11 versus your daughter calls me daddy too or something like that. Like Steve Rogers went from one to the other, especially in Infinity War, right? He has a quote where he says something like, I'm done asking for permission and I'm beyond forgiveness or something. And I was like, oh, damn, Steve Rogers.
Dang. That's funny though, because I was thinking about where I'm interning, right? The IT director, he got on to one of the kids, well, like kids, but you know, like interns, you know. He said something, it's like language, because like they had said fuck, and I said, calm down, Captain America. And the look he gave me, like he wanted to say something. This motherfucker, right? My IT director, by the way, has Hydra tattoos all over him. I don't know if I told you that. He has Hydra tattoos, all of them. And when the last time he cosplayed as Red Skull.
Oh my God. I don't know. Is someone idolizing Hydra? There's something a little questionable there.
You know what he had in his office? He has an Alexi pop. He has a Red Guardian pop.
If we ever did a top 10 best Steve Rogers moment, one that I would put down would definitely be Steve Rogers leaning in Endgame and going, Hail Hydra, in order to try to like get the frickin' Loki staff and Tesseract, you know, away from the Hydra agents.
I feel like that was such a good moment for like the hype around, like, not hype, but you know when like, it was around the time Captain America said Hail Hydra in the comics. So I felt like it was so fitting.
But it made more sense because I think in the comics it's like it was like an alternate universe or something where Steve really was a Hydra agent, and people really didn't like that because, Hydra is an offshoot of the Nazi Party, right? And Captain America was created by Jack Kirby, who was a Jewish man, and written to be a symbol of, Jewish power fighting against Nazism. So people really didn't like the idea that you're having this character created for this specific thing being turned into like a Nazi pretty much. So I understood where people didn't like it in the comics, but I liked how they did it in the show. I'm not in the show, in the movie, because it was Steve just being smart to get what he wanted.
I think there's another thing, though, because I know Red Skull tries to explain, like, he's like, I don't care about any of, like, that. Like, I don't care about, all of the genocide part, but what is this other part? And I'm like, yeah, I guess that, but you're still fucking awful.
Yeah, I know. He tried to, like, make it seem like he was better. Like, no, I'm a scientist, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, let me stop you there. Still, have you ever seen that GIF from Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Andy Samberg's like, cool, still murder though?
Dude, I need to see that show. Everybody talks about how good it is, and I'm like, I have never seen it.
I loved Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think it's hilarious. It's like it's a cop procedural show, but just hilarious. But not in the way of like Reno 911. Like they're serious.
Reno 911.
I heard that they were bringing it back. I heard at some point they were back. The one revival we're okay with. But yeah, number 8, Natasha escaping Hulk. Great. I'm going to go with number 7. It's going to be a small one, but I always thought it was hilarious to me. And I'll explain it because it goes into other things as well. And it's when Natasha kisses Steve in The Winter Soldier. No, and I like that scene because, they're trying to escape Brock, right? And they're in this mall and going down an escalator, and they see Brock coming up another escalator, and it's like, shit, how do we not get recognized, right? So Natasha turns to Steve and she goes, public displays of affection make people uncomfortable. And Steve's like, yes, they make me uncomfortable. And she's like, kiss me. And she like kisses him. And you see how like dumbfounded Steve looks, but Natasha's just smirking. And I love how they're in the car later and she literally turns to him and goes, is that the first time you've kissed a girl in like 80-something years? And Steve just like, what are you trying to say? I'm bad or something?
By the way, I did kind of think it was cute. I know Brock is evil, but the way he looked away, like, ugh.
Because PDA does make people uncomfortable. Brittany.
You. Don't you judge my way of life. Don't you shame me.
But anyway, I always thought that scene was funny because, first of all, I always, the first time we see Natasha and Steve interact is in the first Avengers movie. And I liked their interactions even though they were kind of small. But the Winter Soldier, really expanded on Steve and Natasha's friendship to the point where, they were joking around. Natasha was kind of like his, buddy, and all that. One of my other favorite scenes in The Winter Soldier is when they're in that base, on the computers, and Natasha's like, want to play a game? And she kind of goes to him, she goes, it's from a movie, and he's like, yeah, I know, I saw the movie. And, to me, I just...
Oh, my God. No, I love that shit. Now, by the way, on that subject of, for later on, I'm torn between that or the other thing now. Thanks a lot, Tia.
You're welcome. But yeah, so I guess number 7 would definitely be Natasha kissing Steve, but also kind of Natasha's friendship with Steve. I think that's one of the things that made me the saddest when it came to Natasha dying, where I was like, I don't know. I loved their friendship. And, like, you could see Steve was sad in Endgame. I think he even cried. Like, I think they showed a literal tear, like, run down his cheek. But I still was like, there was never enough acknowledgement of Natasha's death in the movie.
I felt like he was more upset over it than freaking Hulk. Like, Bruce Banner.
You know me, I never shipped Natasha and Bruce. I thought that was like they forced that like whole thing on us, and I love that it didn't come to fruition. Nothing against Bruce. I love Bruce Banner. I just didn't think they had chemistry with each other.
Do you
to me,
they shoehorned that in to be like, oh, look, the nerdy guy got the girl that everybody wanted?
I think there was a bunch of different tropes that fell into that. I think that was one of them. I think another was, oh, look, we have this like really badass, like, you know, woman. We need a guy to ground her, someone that she'll leave the life for. Because, you know, she was like, I'll leave this all behind for you, you know? And then they had to have like that really awkward scene where she had to like explain that, you know, her uterus was taken out and everything. And I'm like, oh God, we don't need any of this. Why do we need like a 20-minute thing of like Natasha explaining her trauma, you know, on screen and shit? Like I didn't like it. So I think that fell into it. I don't know. I didn't like it for a number of reasons. It just felt so unnatural to me. And it felt really forced. Like, to me, I was like, I don't think that you need to hook Natasha up with anyone, but if you were gonna hook her up with someone who she had the most chemistry with, i.e. Steve Rogers.
you are like, you have no shame.
I am definitely a Romanogers shipper, is what the kids are calling it.
Ship name. I don't think I would have been able to say that. I'm impressed.
Yeah, Romanogers. They definitely loved each other.
Rogers?
I have a lot of different examples. The fact that Natasha showed up to Peggy's funeral and she said she was there for Steve. The fact that Natasha was with Steve the whole time during freaking them being on the run. You know, all the looks they gave each other in Winter Soldier.
Up while they were running around together.
100%. Jawan actually agreed with me. He said that. So remember in Infinity War, right? When frickin' Bruce is, you know, Bruce comes to Steve and everything, right? And Steve comes in and Natasha's there and Natasha's like, Bruce? And Bruce is like, Nat? And I think like Sam goes, this is awkward. And Juwan has a theory that the reason why he says this is awkward is because Natasha is reunited with Bruce, and Sam knows for a fact that Steve and Natasha have been hooking up for 2 years. So he's like, oh, this is awkward.
He knows that. He was like, Natasha's dead. I'm going back in the past. I ain't gonna die.
He was like, you know, Natasha and I could have had the little farm too, but she had to die. So we're all sad.
What could have been.
Infinity War and Endgame just broke all of us.
I agree.
But Brittany, what's your number 6?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go back with the flashback of when Scarlet Witch brought her back to the, like, growing up, or like, I'm trying to remember, which was that the scene that showed the full flashback of her being trained and being like wheeled off to have her uterus taken out? Was that the same scene?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go with that scene because I think that was her first like true look at Natasha, like what she's been through. And you know, it's like I thought that was a lot better way to like to show her trauma without showing it, and like, you know, being forced to kill someone at such a young age and really knowing like for anything she's done, for her to have come this far from how she was basically brainwashed and raised her entire life, how would anybody change your mind if that's exactly how you've been raised forever?
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%. Sorry, I thought you were still going.
No, I'm good. I was just saying, I don't know. I just thought it was very telling, and I know it was kind of short. It's kind of a short scene, but I felt like there was so much jam-packed into that scene.
I agree. You know, as much as I didn't say like Age of Ultron, Age of Ultron gave us a lot, right? First of all,
Yeah.
it gave us a Scarlet Witch. And it also opened up a lot. Like people say that what happened in Infinity War was teased all the way back from Age of Ultron. Because if you remember, Tony literally has a image of all the Avengers dead. And Steve Rogers going, "You could have saved us, Tony." And it's like, look what happened in Infinity War and Endgame, right?
Yeah.
Then you have frickin' Scarlet Witch opening up Natasha's past, and we're literally going to see that in the Black Widow movie. So that was really traumatizing. Like, I think we knew that Natasha was trained, obviously, right? She was a very trained KGB agent before she was a SHIELD agent. But to see that she's literally been doing this since, like, a child, that one scene where she's forced to shoot the person in the head, I was like, oh my God, that, like, flashed really quickly.
Didn't it show that was like her, like the last thing she had to do for her initiation, basically?
Yeah, that was the last thing before her quote-unquote graduation ceremony.
The graduation is such a creepy term for it.
It reminds me of, I know you never watched the show The Witcher, but
Yeah.
it's very similar. It's very similar in The Witcher. It's like their graduation ceremony, and the female witches get their uteruses taken out as well. So very, very, very traumatizing. But yeah, that scene was very important to show Natasha's background, to show that she didn't have, say, a traditional upbringing, which, explains a lot of why she is the way she is, and also explains whatchamacallit. Remember in Age of Ultron where they're all trying to lift the hammer, and she says that she's not even going to try because she's like, I'm way too fucked up. I've done way too many bad things to even be worthy of budging
I would
that.
like to see her try, though.
It would have been impressive if she actually could have, because that is like that sort of self-awareness is, maybe what it takes.
Right? Well, I think it's like showing that you can change, that there's, and I think that was a good thing for Thor. He lost being worth it, and he gained back the right to wield Mjolnir.
The best is, I'm sorry, I know like this is a Black Widow moments in the MCU, but I just think about all the amazing MCU moments and thinking back on like Cap wielding Mjolnir and Thor literally shouting, "I knew it!"
He was so excited about it because he knew, and he didn't call it out. He didn't call it out. He was just like, okay. But he did not want Cap to best him in that, though.
Not in that scene. No. In that scene in Age of Ultron where they're all sitting around and Thor's being really arrogant and cocky, saying no one else can lift it but him. So when he sees that Steve can budge it a little, and you even now looking back see Steve, like he budges a little and then he lets go immediately. He's like, I guess, can't do it. But it's like, does Steve know that he could like fully lift that up? But he was like, you know what? I'm not going to embarrass Thor right now.
Trying to be humble, like, I'm going to take it away from him. But I think that goes to show how good a guy he is. He's like, I ain't going to, and also a good to have a good leader. You know what I mean? Like, someone that's not, like, they'd be like, oh yeah, you did 100 push-ups. Well, did you know I've done 200? And they got down and did. You'd be like, well, that kills my morale. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the biggest blow to Thor's ego was in that same movie when Vision just easily picked it up and he's like, okay, let's go.
Pause. By the way, did you know that in that scene when he comes alive that he was supposed to have a penis? I know it's like a really weird way of saying it. That Vision was supposed to come out fully like nude, and like you weren't.
They would
What?
never have done that in a Disney film.
No, I'm saying like he was supposed to be like where we wouldn't see it, but the other actors would see it. Like they wanted a prosthetic one on him, but the director was so disturbed once you can look up the interview that the director, I can't remember which director was the one of that film, but that was very insistent that Vision have a prosthetic penis on, like for the effect. But the moment he saw him like that, like he was so insistent, the moment he saw it, he was like, take it away. You know, it's still, he has a penis. Like, they're like, that's canon, but
Well,
take that thing off.
I mean, it definitely is canon, because if you watch WandaVision, and Vision definitely get down with each other, so it's definitely canon.
Oh my god! But you've got to see that interview because it's so funny. Him just like trying to describe the story of what happened, because we had a big conversation in the office of whether or not we thought, that he possessed one, and apparently a lot of people have asked that question because it was all over the internet when I looked it up.
I mean, yeah, I feel as if that too, again, like was very uneasy territory probably for Disney. They weren't ever going to go in the direction of, you remember in Watchmen, the blue guy, Dr. Manhattan?
Oh my god! I
Was
watched that as a child. By the way, I was not expecting to be. I was not. I could remember that. Thank you for unearthing those memories for me, Tia. Thanks a lot.
Well, because I just remember watching it and I was like, was this necessary? Like, just to see this, like, for 3 hours? Like, I'm no prude, but it kind of I don't know. It's just, it's kind of
why?
weird.
And they were like, why not?
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? I bet you people are listening to this like, Jesus, he is such a prude. And I'm like, I'm just saying, it's also really impractical. You're fighting, like, the dangers and you're not going to put on some clothes. I don't know. Just, it sounds like it's...
I guess because like creature, but still.
That reminds me of, did you ever watch the full season of Altered Carbon? Like the first season?
I didn't get to watch all of it, and I feel like I'd only watched season 1 for obvious reasons.
Yeah, season 2 really wasn't good. But at the end, towards the end of season 1, it wasn't the last episode, but maybe like the third to last episode. Remember the actress who plays the sister, right? Takashi's sister?
Yeah.
There's a scene where it's her and like a bunch of clones of her fighting against Ortega, but the clones are all naked, like fully nude.
Shit.
And they interviewed the actress who literally shot that scene like fully fucking nude. And I'm like, I just can't imagine having to do that. I mean, listen, the actress said that she felt really empowered and everything, and I'm like, more power to you, whatever, do what you do. But I know me, I'd be like, I'm cold.
I'm cold. These girls can cut glass. But I think it's kind of like, I felt like kind of like they were really flexing that they could show nudity on television type of situation.
Maybe, right? I was just like, you think back and you're like, how would that scene have been any different if she was like wearing a bra and underwear? You know what I'm saying?
That just makes me think of, how like people always joke about what character was your sexual awakening? Somebody watched that and was like, this is my sexual awakening.
Someone watched that and saw her, and again, she's a very attractive actress, and she kicked ass in that scene. She kicked ass in the entire season, but someone definitely watched that and was like, I know what I like now.
What I like now. I like strong women. There you go.
You know what? Then I ain't mad at it. But I wasn't mad ever, I'm just saying. My whole point in being is that I feel like as an actress, like, I would be very uncomfortable. There's a reason why, like, Emilia Clarke, right, the girl who played Daenerys, has said that, like, now after Game of Thrones, she refuses to do topless scenes in movies and TV shows.
Because of, like, because of doing the show?
Well, yeah, because of Game of Thrones, when they, like, especially in the first 2 seasons, they're like, and you're topless. And it's like, I have to, like, imagine what that conversation must have been like. She's reading the script. She's like, this is great, this scene. And why are my tits out now? And it's like, for the story. It's like, but why? There's no acknowledgement of it. It's not like a sex scene or anything. And it's like, well, boobs, obviously.
Obviously. Oh, that is funny. You know what? That makes sense, though.
I'm just saying, like, I'm just bringing that up because you brought up the whole vision thing, and then it just started spiraling. But anyway, what's the best thing about that? I always say this is, Paul Bettany plays Vision, but obviously before that he voiced Jarvis, and there's an interview where, like, after he becomes Vision, they say, oh, now you're Vision, you're not Jarvis anymore. Now you're fighting crime alongside them. And they're like, how is that? And, Paul Bettany, obviously joking, but, like that dry sort of humor, he goes, oh, I hate it. He's like, beforehand, I went in for an afternoon, did all my lines, and got paid, and that's it. He's like, now I got to sit in the makeup chair for hours. I got to, memorize lines. It's a lot of work.
So, oh my God, I bet.
But yeah, anyway, you're number 6, Natasha's Training. Love it. And I'm sure that we will see plenty more of that in the Black Widow movie. But I'm going to go at number 5, and my scene is from Infinity War. And it's, I don't know if this is going to trigger anything for you, but when she says she's not alone, and it's in reference to Elizabeth Olsen's character as Wanda about to get, like, defeated by that one member of the Black Order, right, in Wakanda, where she's like, you're going to die alone or something, and Natasha's like, she's not alone. And it's her, Okoye, fighting against, so it's like the 3. Yeah, I love that.
I know, dude, that scene felt very powerful. Because there's not been, like, a lot of times in movies where I'm just like, it's because I'm pretty quiet about my feelings and stuff, but that felt like such, like, a woman moment that I was like, okay, I'm here for all of this. Thank you for this.
It felt so good. I just, like, I love that line so much. Like, she's not alone. And she says it, like, so calmly, and you, like, turn around, and there's, like, 2 of, like, probably the most badass women in all of, like, the MCU, Black Widow and Okoye, just, like, teaming up with Wanda. I was just like, this is amazing. This is everything. I love this scene.
I love Okoye. I thought she was amazing. We need to have, like, really good moments from, like, all the women of the Marvel films. Like, I thought we have, though, but we could do another list.
We could do another list. We probably haven't done something like that in a year or more. We can definitely vamp it up and upgrade. There's been more. Which, oh my God, now that reminds me of, right, a really great scene that Okoye did was in Black Panther when, I forget, like, the character's name, but Daniel Kaluuya, who plays, like, her lover, he says something along the lines of, because remember in Black Panther, like, Okoye's love was on the side of Killmonger, and then during that, like, final battle, the love, right, is facing off against Okoye, and he's like, you would, go against me, my love, and she's like, for Wakanda, of course, and like, has her spear pointed at him, and I'm just like, yeah, mother effer, like, do you not this?
She literally gave you her answer.
She literally said, yeah, for Wakanda, I'll do anything. But anyway, I just love that scene. Like, the three of them are just such powerful women. And I love how, like, to me, I always felt that Black Widow, like, really supported her other fellow women, if that makes sense. It's like she was, for all of us, the first in the Avengers, right? But it's like there's this sense, to me at least in that scene, I felt like there was like this sense of camaraderie amongst like the women in the Avengers. I loved it. I thought it was a great scene.
I did too. I also was like, there's something I was gonna add to that. I think it makes a lot of sense too, the way Natasha was raised too, being only with women in the Red Room, because it was all women, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was their thing, train, train the Black Widows, the deadliest spiders, So yeah, that, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. She's always been surrounded by fellow women, so it's like, of course she would, not feel threatened or anything, but in fact feel probably more powerful, standing amongst her fellow strong, badass women.
Man, now I want to rewatch, and now I'm really sad she's dead again. Thanks, Tia.
The whole thing is sad that she's dead. It's like, why did you have to kill off Natasha? I don't understand it. It's like, I get you wanted to probably bring in Yelena, and I'm excited for Yelena.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for her. But you didn't have to kill Natasha in the process.
They're like, we're going to throw it all away. And you're like, no, you don't have to throw the whole thing away.
They're like, no, it can only be one Black Widow. So it's like, if you want, like, Yelena's Black Widow, you're going to have to get rid of Natasha's Black Widow. And I feel like the little girl in the taco commercials where it's like, why not both?
I like that.
Have you, the actress who's playing Yelena, have you seen her in much? The actress Florence Puh. I never know how to pronounce her last name, and I feel like it's weird to be like Puh. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Let me see. Florence Puh. I'm looking it up right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen her in something, but let me look at her. So bring up their filmography, like right off. Wait, there it went. I have not. But a lot of these movies are ones that are really popular, but ones I have not seen.
So she is like a good. I don't want to necessarily call her like up and coming actress because she's been in a lot at this point, a lot of like well-known things, but she's still young, right?
Yeah.
But I think she's a really good actress, so I'm really excited to see her in Black Widow, and I am excited that she won't be a one-off character. She was in this movie Midsommar. That was like a horror film.
Yes.
And that movie fucking terrified me because it's like, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I haven't seen it, but I read the summary on it. That shit's intense.
It is intense, so I'm like, all right, so if she can act in that, she's definitely going to do a good job. And as you said, I love the scene in the trailer for the Black Widow movie where she's like telling Natasha that it wasn't pretend for her. And I'm like, it's like probably one of those things where like Natasha was her older sister and she feels so betrayed that Natasha left. And I'm like, it's going to kill me.
You're like, thanks, my heart's dead. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. But Brittany, what is your number 4 in our top 10 Black Widow moments in the MCU?
Let me see here. Okay. I'm hoping that it doesn't end up on your list, but it's okay if it does. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with a different one because I think this one deserves to be higher. I'm gonna go with the beginning of Infinity War when when they're like it's after Civil War. I think I've got this right. Where Vision and Scarlet Witch have they've been kind of like rendezvousing together, like having a good old time together, but they get attacked by those other people, Thanos's people, and they get saved. And I don't know why, but I love when Black Widow's like getting onto her, like like almost like the motherly type again, talking about her taking care of women. I love it when she's just basically getting onto Scarlet Witch, like I told you, stay in touch. And like they're just like very much like getting onto a child. Do I have that scene right? 'Cause I'm pretty sure that's like almost exactly the way it went.
Yeah, you're right. So it's like Wanda and Vision are, doing their meetup point so that they could have, they can do it.
Yeah. They were definitely
and, Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. So, they're out in public and they're getting worried because they're hearing all this crazy shit, and then they get attacked by the Black Order, Thanos's people. And then Natasha swoops in and she's like, you said we'd be, we have a rule, stay in touch. And Wanda's like, I just wanted to stay in bed. Like, I wanted to stay in bed with my boo.
It's true though. I don't know why. I just love that little scene because for me it's like, Big Mama Scarlet Witch, not Scarlet, sorry, Black Widow coming in to save her little babies because they want to go around and fuck,
Natasha's like, we don't have time for this. We're on the run. And Wanda's like, I don't know. There's always time for this.
We'll make time.
By the way, WandaVision just feels like that scene. Like Wanda's like, you know what? I wanted more time in bed, so I'm gonna make more time in bed.
So she made an entire entire freaking world of it.
I love it. But yeah, I do love that scene. I love that whole scene where Natasha comes in with Sam and Cap and everything, and because, Wanda was on Team Cap, but Vision was on, Team Iron Man. So, but they're lovers. So what happens, now in this world where Steve's people have to be on the run? Because remember, they were on the run for 2 years, and admittedly, Wanda was probably also on the run with them, which is why Natasha says, you were supposed to stay in touch, but clearly they have an agreement with Tony that it's like, okay, well, every once in a while, Wanda and Vision can get together, but that still doesn't mean you can't stay in touch. As you said, Natasha is definitely the mom in that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if she adopted, she would have been the fiercest mama bear. Oh, what's your mom gonna do about it? Well, she's killed more men than probably you've seen in your life. So
my favorite, how to word this? Natasha probably at some point wanted to be a mom, because remember in Age of Ultron, Clint, his wife was pregnant and Natasha was hoping that it was a girl, and when the wife is like, oh, it's a boy, Natasha gets so mad and she looks at the woman's stomach and she goes, traitor.
That was such a cute scene, but they still named it after her.
Oh yeah, they named it Nathaniel. And yeah, it was Nathaniel Pietro Barton. And I love how she was looking at the picture and she's smiling and she's fat.
I love little chubby babies, by the way. I just want to pinch their cheeks.
Oh my god. But yeah, so Natasha definitely was a mama bear to Wanda, reminding her that she had a curfew, and Wanda clearly didn't pay attention to the curfew for a boy. So typical Wanda. She's going through her teenage rebellion years, apparently.
In her early 20s.
Yeah, right. However old Wanda is, she was still going through, like, she was like, listen, when I was, like, a teenager, I was fighting revolutions in my country. So now that I have no country anymore because someone, landed a meteor on it practically, now I'm doing this.
Ultron was crazy, but, like, Ultron was very creepy with them, by the way. Can we talk about that?
I always thought that the way he talked to him, especially the way he talked to Wanda, where he's like, you will destroy them. And I'm like, why is this robot being really creepy to these two people? I don't like this.
You know what I think it is because he was created from the Mind Stone too, right? Like from the energy of it?
Yes, I believe they used some of the staff to help create him.
I was trying to think, wouldn't it be, if Vision has a connection with Wanda because of that stone, would it not be fair to say that Ultron probably felt very, possessive of those two for the same reason?
It definitely could be explained that way. Because I don't think of any other
robot, man. God.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Pietro is rolling in his grave. Like, dear sister, please stop banging that robo-dick. What was I going to say? Holy shit. Yeah, no, I always thought that Ultron was a bit creepy with them. I mean, I don't know. I'm glad that the two of them quickly kind of went on the Avengers side. Did you feel that? Like, they weren't villains for very long in that movie?
Oh, not at all. And I didn't know what to think of them at first. I was like, God. I was like, they gotta throw in these angsty young people. And I'm like, oh, okay, same. At first, I thought they were going to be a one-off. Like, I knew that they were, like, important characters, being Magneto's children in, like, the comics. But I was kind of like, eh. And definitely, like, I really warmed up to both of them by the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I want to say that, like, Wanda is one of my favorite characters. Like, I certainly think she's the most powerful Avenger. Like, and I was thinking that even in Endgame, right? And then after watching WandaVision, I'm like, yo, you literally don't, like, make an entire illusion town that sustains itself without you even really concentrating or lifting a finger, without being, like, the most powerful frickin' being on planet Earth, or even the universe.
Right? I mean, she's pretty insane. like, I fear her. Could you imagine, like, her children would never have anything to worry about.
Well, they did, kind of, in the show. She had children in the show.
I don't want to hear anything from you.
My favorite scene of Wanda's is in Endgame, where she's like, "You took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. You will." And she just proceeds to, like, almost kill him. It's like, Wanda, strongest Avenger. But yeah, I love.
Do you feel like Thanos was? Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, do you almost feel like Thanos was like I'm trying to think, like, almost like really annoyed / just confused, because he was kind of weird with Wanda too, because, like, when he didn't kill her, because he was like, after, he killed Vision, he's like, I know pain too, and he, like, touches her hair. I'm like, what is up with all these characters being weird with her?
That is very true. Yeah, very, like, this weird thing, like, where they almost are like, oh, look, she's so fragile, I have to, like, tiptoe around her. And I'm like, do you know who she is? Do you know who Wanda is?
Do you know
fucking Scarlet Witch. It's canon in the MCU now.
It's canon.
They called her it in WandaVision. She's the fucking Scarlet Witch. She got the crown and the outfit and everything.
She's Scarlet Witch. Or did she not get her name until later on?
WandaVision's the first time that they called her Scarlet Witch because of the weirdness. So, all right, really quick background, right? Like, Wanda and Pietro in the comics are mutants, right? They're Magneto's kids. But in the MCU, because it's owned by Disney and originally mutants were owned by Fox, Disney was allowed to use Wanda and Pietro, but they weren't allowed to say that they were mutants, and they weren't allowed to call them by their, like, superhero names. So now that Disney owns Fox and has won back the rights, now they can call them these things. So now it's like, now she's the Scarlet Witch.
Almost holding off on it was pretty good, though, because it made it just, that much, more powerful.
It made it earned, especially in, like, the context of the show where it's like she didn't even know, like, what a Scarlet Witch was. And then when it's explained, like, it's this natural, like, all-powerful witch that doesn't need to, do spells. She doesn't need to, do incantations. It's like all of that, like, witch power is in her, and she can manipulate it herself. It's like, that's a Scarlet Witch, and they're so rare. They only come, like, once every 1,000 years or something, and, like, you are a Scarlet Witch. Like, to me, I was like, it actually worked out better.
You're a wizard, Harry. I'm sorry.
Like, wait, in Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? There's a scene where Sam and Bucky are arguing, and Sam says something like, whenever we're getting attacked, it's always 1 out of 3. Aliens, robots, or wizards. And Bucky's like, there are no wizards. And Sam's like, Doctor Strange. And Bucky's like, he's not a wizard, he's a sorcerer. And Sam's like, same thing, just no wand.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I guess, like, they argued about it.
They had to argue about, like, is Doctor Strange a wizard? I feel like he would be so done hearing that. He'd be like, I am the Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh my god. That's like a Sorcerer Supreme shit. You would be like, no, that's just too funny.
That's another thing, and I know I keep telling, like, about WandaVision, but, like, in WandaVision, when Wanda's being explained that she's the Scarlet Witch, like, the character Agatha says, the Scarlet Witch is even more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. Like, saying it's canon that Wanda is more powerful than Doctor Strange. And I was like, yeah.
Pissed when he finds out.
I believe in Wanda's supremacy.
Oh my god, Tia. Oh, you fangirl.
I am. Shamelessly, too. But, yes, I love your number 4, Wanda parenting, Natasha parenting Wanda. Perfect. I'm going to go with 3. I just really like these scenes with Natasha where she's, like, working alongside someone. And again, I feel like all these are small scenes, but to me, these small scenes, like, stand out. And
personality.
Right. So it's going to be Natasha and Sharon fighting Bucky in Civil War because I love it so much. I love it. First of all, I love Sharon Carter as well. And I love Natasha's fighting style. Natasha has a very unique fighting style. And so to see, like, these two trained SHIELD agents, because we see that Sharon can also hold her own, and the two of them going, like, you have to think about it, right? Like, Natasha does not have any powers, right? In the comics, it is canon that she had, like, a little bit of super soldier serum in her, but that was never explained in the movie. As far as we know, that's not a thing, right? So it's like, you realistically just have someone who's just a really well-trained assassin. going up against someone like Bucky, who has super soldier serum in him, has a literal metal arm, and is brainwashed essentially to be this like cold-hearted, soulless killer. And for her to like, yeah, she had Sharon, so you could say, oh, well, it was 2-on-1. But in this, it's not like they both went at him at the same time. It's like they took turns. And it's like Natasha was kind of going toe-to-toe. Like, yes, he was getting the upper hand because of what he is, but I still felt as if any normal person wouldn't have even been able to get, like, as far as she did.
That's true. Well, I love that interaction, too, where she's like, you could at least remember me.
Yes. I always say, others say, like, remember in the Winter Soldier movie, she explains to Steve that she's encountered the Winter Soldier before and he shot through her and everything. Like, a lot of people will say, well, that's what she's referring to. Yeah, remember she says that she can't wear a bikini anymore, and Steve was, like, being all pissy, going, well, I bet you look terrible anyway, because he was all mad at her.
Why was he mad at her again?
Well, he was mad because this is when, Natasha was, like, holding secrets. He's finding out about the whole Winter Soldier thing. He's finding out that, like, all these lies that, like, Nick Fury was holding from him. So, and, Natasha was part of it because...
Such a grumpy butt.
He's so grumpy. But I feel like her saying that to Bucky was an Easter egg, because in the comics, it is canon that Bucky, like, trained Natasha and that they had a brief, like, love affair with each other. So I'm like, I'm not saying that that's canon in the MCU, but I feel like as if that was an Easter egg, in my opinion.
No, I love that, though. I think that was definitely telling for Peggy. Not Peggy. Was
Sharon.
Sharon. Sorry, I wanted to call her Peggy. I know it's awful. But, I thought that was telling because at first I was kind of like, God, she's just, like, poor, pitiful, really, like, not really physically capable, but just the love interest and big, strong, Captain America's got to take care of her. So that scene was good. I was like, dang, she's going to make them catch her hands.
I love Sharon Carter. First of all, I love that actress. I love the show Revenge. And she was the main character in that show. And I think that she just, like, what she was able to do in that show is amazing. So it's like, her in the MCU, I'm like, let her act. Like, she can act. Just give her the room to do it. And she was in the 3rd episode of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we saw, like, it's really funny, right? You remember how she pretty much, like, risked her entire career for Captain America by getting him his shield back, right?
No.
And so she had to go on the run, too. Like, she didn't go back to her job. She had to go on the run, just like everyone else. But she's, like, still on the run. Like, the government still hasn't pardoned her, even though they pardoned Bucky. So at this point in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, she's, like, living in this, like, lawless town of Madripoor, being essentially, like, an art dealer and everything. And they're like, whoa, like, what happened to you? And she's like, I've had to survive this whole entire time. Like, you guys are all here, there, and being pardoned and shit. Like, I'm still not allowed to enter the country.
That's kind of shitty.
I know. Like, and considering she's, like, the niece of Peggy Carter, the actual, like, founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., you would think she would get, like, more respect.
You would think with the bullshit they were doing, they'd be like, oh, pretend to date this new guy and we'll pardon you because of the bullshit they keep pulling with the fucking fake dude.
Oh, my God, John Walker.
Oh, my God.
Every time in the show that he either calls himself Captain America or he calls Bucky, I want to, like, punch him. I'm like, you're not Captain America, and why are you calling him Bucky? He ain't your friend.
He ain't your friend. What's his? What is he called? The White Wolf, I think.
Oh my god, that to me I thought was the best line. They're like doing this stealth mission and freaking Sam goes, he's like, oh, what? You spent a little time in Wakanda and now you think you're the White Panther? And Bucky, straight face, without skipping a beat, goes, I'm the White Wolf. And I'm like...
Really like internalize their names, by the way.
What'd you say?
Don't you feel like they really internalize their names?
Like their superhero names?
Yeah, they're very like, I am this person. It's like, okay, calm down. I got it. You're what you say you are, buddy.
I know I keep like, I know it's going to take you forever to watch these shows, so you'll like forget most of the things that I'm saying right now. But there's this scene in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, right, where the fake Captain America, as we're calling him, right?
Yeah.
So you have fake Captain America in a car with Bucky and Sam, and with fake Captain America is like his partner, right? So they're in this van, and it's like, okay, what's your name then? To like the partner, he's like, I'm Battlestar, and Bucky's like, I'm sorry, what? Battlestar? He's like, stop the car right now. And they're like, what? He's like, I'm getting, stop the car. And like they literally stop the car, and he literally gets out. He's like, Battlestar, and he just like keeps walking away because it's like, well, I guess I'm following him then.
That makes me want to know, by the way, if he knows like pop culture references better than than Steve did.
I mean, you have to like think about, because like, yeah, Steve was on ice, right, for 75 years, and Bucky was brought back like throughout the years, but he was only brought back for like assassination. So it's like, would he have had time to like know these things unless they're like, you need to know these things? I don't freaking know. I don't know. Maybe.
I'm a little curious now too.
I am a little curious about that. But what you gonna call it? Yeah, so my number 3 is Natasha and Sharon fighting against Bucky. It was what I wanted. I like, again, love Natasha's fighting style. Like, remember when she was fighting against Crossbones in Civil War? She just like jumped and like a spider monkey just wrapped her freaking legs around his neck and freaking took him down. Like, I loved that shit.
She's so fierce, or was so fierce.
No, don't say it like that.
And now I'm depressed. Thanks, Tia. You're a real bummer. You know that?
You said it.
Well, you made my brain think it, so you're the bad guy. That's how it works, right?
No. But what is your number 2? Well, what's the number 2 for the list? Your technical number 1.
I am gonna go with the chair scene where she's tied up by the like mob or whatever for information. And she already had it planned out, and she gets the call, and they're like, did you not check her for a phone? Like, and they're like looking a little confused, and she's like, oh, it's for you, And when they pick it up, they're like, oh, sorry, that's when they go, it's for you. And like put it up to her ear or something. And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of busy right now. I don't know. I just felt like that was the epitome of like her sass and how like unbothered she was with the situations that she was put in. But the one thing is, I don't remember what episode. I mean, what movie that was from.
So that's in the first Avengers, and she's in the chair. And these Russian guys are like interrogating her, and they slap her, right? And they say something along the lines of like, "You think your pretty face or something will save you?" Something along, right? And she just kind of like raises her eyebrow and goes, "You think I'm pretty?" And it's like just how And then when she gets the call, it's Phil Coulson, and she's like, "Yeah, what do you want?" She was like, "I'm working here. I got these guys eating out of the palm of my hands." like
Oh
she,
my
as you just said, she's so unbothered by it that she's in a chair with her hands tied behind her back, her feet tied to the legs of the chair, but she's like, "I have the upper hand here," obviously.
That's like one thing is like she kind of gives me chills with that shit with the "you think I'm pretty?" Like, oh no, like she's gonna literally eat you. She is the black motherfucking widow.
I love it. And then when she finally breaks out of that chair, she just defeats everyone. She just takes her shoes and just walks casually away.
Before she went for Bruce Banner, right?
I think that's the scene where Phil tells her that he needs her to go and get Bruce Banner.
Oh, yes. I know it's such a small scene, but I just thought it was so well orchestrated because she's just so sassy. She had so much freaking attitude for days.
It is such a great scene. It's, first of all, so telling, so iconic. It's her introduction in the Avengers movie. And just goes to show you how, in control Natasha is of probably most of the situations that she's in.
I just like the way she works men. I know it sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Well, what she did with Tony, she had him eating out of the palm of her hand in Iron Man 2. Out of the palm of her hand. He was with Pepper and he couldn't help drooling over her.
Black Widow's the epitome of I could have your man, but I don't want him.
Or when in Iron Man 2 when Happy is like, "Here, I'll give you some boxing lessons," and she's like, "Put you on the ground."
She whooped his ass. But I thought, I was like, is that not out of character? But I'm like, wouldn't that give your cover away?
I think in her resume she said that she was a black belt in jiu-jitsu or something like that.
Oh shit, she fucked him up though.
I just, as you said, I know it sounds bad, her ability, I think it's less maybe her ability to manipulate guys, but more of taking advantage of the fact that they underestimate her.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that's probably why, the Black Widow program was even a thing, because who would suspect these very attractive women that could eat you?
You see that I think in a lot of assassin movies where you have this girl as, say, the lead, because they say you wouldn't expect her. And Scarlett Johansson, right, isn't a tall woman. I think she's 5'3" at best, right? She's not a tall woman. She's not very say physically imposing or anything. So the fact that you have this smaller woman as such a skilled and deadly assassin is exactly what the Black Widow program wanted.
Man, now I want to rewatch it. I want the movie to come out already. What is it, June or July for it?
I forgot now. You're going to have to look it up. I completely forgot because it got a new date, but then it's also going to be on Disney Plus. So I don't understand why it moved a date if it's going to be on Disney Plus, but whatever. Disney works in mysterious ways,
Let me look real quick. Let me see. Black Widow. It comes out July 9th. God.
Okay. Oh, that's so far away.
No.
I can't wait for it. I'm going to binge the fuck out of that. Not binge because it's a movie. Sorry. Now I'm so used to the TV shows, but I'm going to watch the fuck out. I wish it came out now. We didn't have any Marvel stuff, right, in 2020. But now in 2021, with having WandaVision, now having the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, getting the trailer for the Loki show, I'm like, yes, we're getting more Marvel content, and you're getting all these TV shows, and you're sitting there going, why am I waiting for the fucking movies? Like, I don't want to wait anymore. We're fully in to the new Marvel stories. I don't want to wait so long to see where they're going now.
I think that's like my thing is like you do get kind of spoiled for it because you kind of get so much time with each character. Having to wait for the other just sucks.
It does suck because we're gonna get Black Widow, right? And as I said, like, it's not just Black Widow I'm excited for. I'm excited for all of the movies to come out. But we needed Black Widow to come out before we get the Eternals, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange 2, Spider-Man 3. Like, so curious with Spider-Man 3 to see if the rumor is true that Charlie Cox is in it as Matt Murdock, because that's the rumor that's been floating around. But there's been no set photos. You know, it's not, say, 100% confirmed. So I'm like, is that true? Is that not true? I need the fucking movie to come out so I can see if it's true or not.
I know, because that would really spell, like, the beginning of the best. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of them coming back.
I
know. Would come back for the Punisher.
I mean, in every interview that he's in and that he's asked about it, he says yes. He says that Frank Castle is still a character that's with him. So I'm like, you know, I hope Marvel's having conversations with him on low, right? Like, we don't know about it, but they're having conversations. I'm like, as long as they're having conversations, I'm good.
Then we're fine.
Brittany, can you imagine that? Can you like, I feel as if John Bernthal's Punisher would be best, like, showing up in the upcoming Blade movie. But can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine that happening? Him just in it? I'd be like,
T, you would probably die. I don't need that to happen because I would no longer have a friend or a host.
I want it to happen where we don't know about it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't need them to tell me that John Bernthal's in it. Like, I want to be there and I want to watch it. Like, this is a really weird comparison, right? But Law and Order SVU, Elliot Stabler just came back after 10 years of not being on the show, right? But, you know, we knew the event was happening. And the beginning, like, scene where they reunite, it was literally put out by the official Twitter page as, like, the trailer. To me, I think it would have been, like, a lot more impactful if we didn't know anything about it. The episode starts off, Benson is, you know, like, the whole thing starts with her seeing a car crash and, like, getting out to investigate, right? And, like, how good would it be if the episode started, we didn't know what was going on, and she's, like, looking, all of a sudden you hear Olivia, and she turns around, and she's like, Elliot? And it's like, oh my god, Christopher Maloney's back!
I feel like it would be, like, the shock I had when I saw, like, in the height of, like, how obsessed I was with Transformers and going to the movie theater and getting the fucking trailer. Because keep in mind, I didn't have a computer at this time. Because I know it's so funny. I didn't have internet or TV, like, not TV, internet or a computer. Like, I kind of had, like, my phone, but that was for texting and calling, right? And being at the theater when the Transformers trailer came on, when it was the big moon and, like, where they're like, you know, see something else on the moon. I remember I was just, like, beside myself, like, wanting to, like, pass out. Like, I didn't even care about the movie I was going to watch after that because I couldn't wait to, like, write a fan fiction story. You know what I mean? Like, where you're, like, instantly inspired.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what of mine that happened like that where I was like, oh my god. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm sure it's happened before where I was like, huh?
Did killing Daenerys do that to you?
When
Like
they
the
killed
shock?
Daenerys? Oh, yeah, I mean, that was crazy. But I'm saying, like, something that I was, like, so excited for that, like, they kept it under wraps where you're like, oh my God, wait, what? You know, like, oh God, I'm trying to think. And maybe it was in like a Marvel show. Anyway, my whole point in being is sometimes it's good to like hold things to your chest, right? So I'm saying like if they brought John Bernthal back as the Punisher, I almost don't want to know about it until it happens. Like I want to be in the movie watching like whatever movie it is, and all of a sudden he walks in and I'm like, ah, ah.
I think it's so hard now because they're like, so-and-so was seen on the set of, and it's like, can you leave that fucker alone so I can, like, be surprised?
It's like, you know, again, me being someone who didn't read the comics, right? I didn't know who really a lot of these characters were, so I was seeing things for the first time. But if you're a comic book reader, like, you know who, say, Nick Fury is. So, you know, at the end of Iron Man 1, when Nick Fury comes and he's like, I'd like to talk to you about the Avengers initiative. If you're a fucking comic book reader, you were freaking the fuck out when that happened, right? So it's like, and I had heard that they literally covered Samuel Jackson up when transporting him to the frickin' set so that reporters couldn't take pictures. And I'm like, you need to do something like that, like a level of that happening.
Right, because, I mean, the Punisher series was the only one I truly, truly cared about. Like, I loved the Daredevil and stuff, but I wanted the Punisher. Remember when I finally beat you finishing a season of something? Like a series of something?
It's the only time it ever happened.
What did I do? I think I, like, woke up early, like, the moment it dropped, watched, like,
I had to go to work. That was the thing. I had to go to work, so I ended up watching like 2 episodes before I went to work, and I had to go to work, but you didn't go to work that day, so you literally just like woke up early and watched all 13 episodes in like one day. So it's like I, you know, of course was behind, but now it's always the opposite. I'm always finishing
I would say I was impressed with myself for finishing 13. What were they like? Were they 30 minutes or an hour long each?
They were like a solid 45 to 50 minutes, so I'm very impressed.
Dude, you want to know what else helped to like watch them all?
What?
And I showered. I put it up so I could watch it in the shower when I was showering.
I think we also had a bet going on, and so it was like who's going to finish it first, and I think your competitive nature came in because you definitely didn't finish the second season. So
I'm not competitive. I've never been competitive.
So competitive. Oh, before I go further, the best was you and I saw Civil War at the same time, just not in the same theater. Like, I remember we went to go...
at the same time, didn't we? Like right on the dot time?
Yeah, like, so for those who are listening, I live in New York, Brittany lives in Arkansas, right? And we both were like, hey, I'm seeing Civil War tonight. I'm seeing Civil War tonight. And I would be like, I'm just using a hypothetical time, right? I'm like, I'm seeing it at 8 o'clock. And you're like, I'm seeing it at 7, and you know, because Arkansas isn't.
I don't think we did that at first. I didn't think we pieced it together until we were like, okay, I'm going to the theater, and we're like, wait a second.
So when we both come out of the theater, we both like text each other like, ah!
I think I wanted to call you with someone, and I was like, get rid of them so I can talk to you.
Yeah, I think on my way home, I was just like, all right, let's talk about this.
Oh my God, such a good time.
That's such a good time. But speaking about good times, we are down to the number 1 on our top 10 best Black Widow moments in the MCU. It has been a great episode. It's been a great list. There are so many amazing moments. I'll go through the first 9 before we get down to number 1. It sounds bad to start it off literally with Natasha dying. We have Natasha dying, the Budapest mention, Natasha escaping the Hulk, Natasha kissing Steve, Natasha's training in training flashback, Natasha teaming up with Okoye to help Wanda fight against the Black Order, Natasha parenting Wanda, Natasha and Sharon fighting Bucky, the chair scene in the first Avengers, and my favorite Natasha moment, coincidentally also one of my favorite moments for another MCU character, and that is the scene in the first Avengers when Loki and Natasha are squaring up and Loki says that she has so much red in her ledger, it is dripping.
Oh, you mewling Clem. I know that's really controversial that he called her that in that movie, by the way.
Because he pretty much called her a stupid whore. Like, that's essentially what he called her. Just, like,
is what he called her.
Yeah. But, like, you know, in fancy talk, in Shakespeare talk. But I love that scene so much. You have Loki, who is probably my favorite character in the MCU, you know, in the case that the Hulk was meant for, you know, on the helicopter, not the helicopter, sorry, whatever those things were, right? The helipad, whatever. You know, and Natasha goes there to talk to him, and they're, you know, she's standing there so calm, and Loki's trying to assess her, and he's like breaking her down. He's saying like, you know, that she has so much red in her ledger, and she's, you know, this killer, and that she's done all these horrible things, and that, you know, he's going to kill Clint, you know, slowly in front of her and everything. And you think that Natasha's getting like, you know, really scared, right? He's like saying all these things, and you think she's like, you know, getting horrified, and then suddenly he kind of like
fake cry. She like turns around.
Yes, she turns around like so, and then when it kind of alludes that he's talking about the Hulk, she like turns around. She's like, "So you're trying to release the Hulk? That's your end game here? Okay, cool." And like walks away, and she's like, "Thank you for your cooperation," and like walks away, and I'm like,
so see about it. He was so he's like come back here.
He's like, "I'm the god of manipulation, not you."
She's like, "No more, bitch. I got a new crowd."
She was like, "Bitch, I was in the fucking KGB. I was raised in the fucking Black Widow program in the Red Room." She was like, "Manipulation is my middle name. I don't even know what my real middle name is anymore. I got like 10 different passports with all fake names on it and shit. Like, you
That's up for my own name."
I think they allude that Natasha isn't even her real name, because doesn't Steve say that in like The Winter Soldier? He's like, you know, "What is your real name?" or something, or she's like, "Who do you want me to be?" or something like that. I forget now. But,
I think it was something like that. That feels familiar.
But I love this scene. I love this scene so much with the Red Ledger, because again, it really tells you who Natasha is, that her whole entire like life has been trying to make up for everything that she's done in the past, like, and the reason why she sacrificed herself in the end, because it's like her wanting to just do such good because of all the bad that she's done.
Do you not feel like a little bit that it's a good like what would you call it, a parable about like, oh yeah, you can have all this shit happen to you that's out of your control, but it's up to you to change it? Because she could have just been like, this is how I was raised, and this is what, I'm, basically fucked up, but it's like, but she chose not to continue down that path. And we said, you can't really blame her if she was brainwashed as like a child to be like this.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think of how much it must have took for her to fight against all of that training, all of that, like, and, I think it goes into where, again, Yelena is kind of like, you left us, and Natasha's probably like, I had to. I couldn't become who I am and stay there. Like, all that is, brainwashing, and I was trying to get away from that.
I was gonna say, why is she helping her again? Because is she still with the Black Widows, Yelena?
I don't think I don't think Yelena is. I think Yelena's, but I think that Yelena, like, say, still lives maybe in it, but I don't think she's there because I think the whole point is that they're trying to take down the program.
Well, because see, the other thing was is that Taskmaster in that trailer, it's like bring her back home, like bring her back to the room, basically. So that's why I was like, if the others aren't with that, why would they be helping her?
I mean, I think they just want to help her take down the Red Room because, you know, Yelena was also trained in it. They all were trained in it. But I think there's a degree of maybe they were also fucked over by it. Because if you remember from the trailer, like, Alexi's literally breaking out of prison. So, you know, and the Red Guardian was supposed to be the USSR's version of Captain America. So why would they have put their symbol in prison? And it's like, well, it's like once they were done with him,
Well, you know
they
what
were done.
thinking back? Alexi says to them, my girls are strong, and it's like he's kind of like has a hand on them, like he's upset, and it makes me wonder if he was about to be taken to prison for trying to take them away from that lifestyle and basically defecting, and that's why he's in prison for protecting them.
Right. I think that the thing with them is that they all were slowly defecting away from all of this.
Because it would make sense, how would Natasha, start to move away if maybe, he helped with that a little bit too and lost faith in it, because he seems to be very adamant on helping them. And like you said, why would they put their greatest, weapon basically in a cell if not for that he defected?
Right. And it's like you have to imagine if Natasha didn't have those doubts, right, already there, she wouldn't have been so easily changed by Clint, right? Where Clint was, hey, come to S.H.I.E.L.D. If she was so deeply brainwashed, she would have been like, fuck no, I'm going to kill you right now. But she may have been thinking all that, but because she was, born into it, didn't know where else to go or what else to do. And then when you have someone who's finally offering you a way out, it's like, okay, now I'm going to defect.
Man, I wish we would have got more of her.
It's this whole, like, it's definitely a story that we still need more answers for, and I'm glad that we're getting the Black Widow movie because now we'll finally be able to get all these explanations. And I just hope that, though, there's not more questions than answers at the end of it. But Brittany, what do you think about the number one? I mean, with that very infamous Loki and Natasha scene.
I love that scene. Cause I remember watching it, and I felt like a little like that hot, sick feeling you get when something is very intense, right? Especially when you're like trying to take that all in. And I remember I was like, oh God, he's doing it. Like, oh, this is bad. And then when she turned around and did that, I was like, instant relief. Instant relief. But I'm like, dang, son, she's fucking like, I guess she was a strong female character done right, because sometimes I hate and it's okay to be super like that, a super tough female, but sometimes they almost make it that to be a strong character, you give up some of that soft femininity to it, which isn't bad. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's nice to see that you can be fierce and be small at the same time. You know what I mean? That delicacy. But she's not delicate at all. She just appears that way.
Well, almost like they have a lot of times where it's like, oh, look, she's just the silent, strong female with no personality. And it's like Natasha had a ton of personality. I just love that whole scene, like, where you thought at first Loki got through to her, and in reality, Natasha was just upper hand the entire time.
Which looking back, if he had broken her, that would have been like, dude, that was pretty weak sauce coming from Loki. He's a little bitch.
Aw, don't you insult my man, Loki.
But I'm saying, like, they made him so like the it's almost like an underdog story now.
I love Loki. But I never shy away from the fact that like I wrote fan fiction, and let me tell you, in 2012 when Avengers came out and that scene happened, I was like, I know what I'm writing when I get home.
That's why I was kind of talking about like that hot sick feeling you get when something's really intense. I was like, it was that kind of hot sick feeling. I was like, I'm gonna message her afterwards and let her know what I meant. But you know what? That's what I meant.
I was just like, can't wait to write. Can't wait, like rubbing my hands together, like, oh yeah, gonna go home and write something bad.
Write something bad. Oh my god. There's something wrong with us.
Yes, there is. But Brittany, before we wrap everything up today, did you have any honorable mentions of Natasha's greatest hits, as I like to call it now?
Maybe like whenever she actually did go see Bruce Banner, because it was like it took some convincing.
I did think that was a good scene, where then she kind of like pulled the gun out on him, and then you notice that like he was getting observed, because you remember at first he's like, oh, what, do you have like all these agents outside and blah, blah, and she's like, no, it's just you and me. And then like when it looks like he may try and attack her, it's like, no, they had agents everywhere.
No, that was intense. I liked that scene a lot. I'm trying to think anything else. What do you got?
Whatchamacallit again, I love the fight scene in Iron Man 2 when it's revealed finally that she is a SHIELD agent, and her and Happy go to like this facility, and Happy spends like 10 minutes fighting one person while Natasha literally like knocks out 20 guys in one fell swoop. To me, I just thought that was so
funny.
I also, it's such a small scene, but I love her in frickin' The Winter Soldier, when Steve and Sam are talking for the first time, and she pulls up in her car and she's like, hey guys, I'm looking for a fossil. Can you point me to the Smithsonian? But she's like talking about... I thought that was... I
would have got more interactions between her and Loki. I could have shipped it.
Oh, fuck yeah. 100%. And I guess the last thing is, there's a scene in Age of Ultron, right, when they're in Sokovia fighting against all the other robots, and Steve like throws the shield to her for a second, so you literally have Natasha like wielding the shield for a hot second fighting against the robots, and I'm like, I love the symbolism here. I love it.
It's like, I didn't know I needed this, but now I need it. So yeah, those are like little things. I just always liked Natasha. Again, she was the first female in the Avengers movie. And I always thought that she was this great, like, pivotal character. She was important even with the Avengers as it kept growing, and all these characters that had like powers and abilities, and she's quote unquote just an assassin, and I still felt like she could hold her own every single time. And I did feel like a lot of times she was the glue that kept everything together. So I love Natasha. I think that she deserved more respect in the MCU. I think we deserved a Black Widow movie years ago. Yeah, not but like a million years when she's dead.
Well, okay, let me tell you this, right, really quick. Before the first Avengers movie came out, it's like all the characters had their individual movies. We had Iron Man. We had 2 Iron Man movies, right, before the first Avengers. We had a Thor movie. We had a Captain America movie. And, when I saw her in Iron Man 2, I was like, cool, we're going to have a Black Widow movie now. Okay, Black movie didn't happen. Avengers happened. All right, well, Avengers happened. We're definitely getting this Black Widow movie. Didn't happen. And I'm like, where the hell is the Black Widow movie? Like, what the hell? And then it's like, oh, we're finally gonna have one. Endgame happens, and she's dead. And I'm like, oh, this is our consolation prize. Okay, I see.
Yeah, you bastard.
But But then I think I remember Scarlett Johansson herself said, like, if they had done it 10 years ago, it wouldn't be the story that they're doing now. And it's like, I get that, but I still wanted it.
I know, I'm still salty, though. It's like, I guess you're right, but I'm still salty about it.
Well, because, this movie's supposed to take place in between Civil War and Infinity War, right? But why didn't we just have this movie then in between Civil War and Infinity War to explain where she's been this whole time?
Yeah, you could have had it a long time ago, but they're like, well, her death wouldn't have the same impact, yada yada.
Yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like a whole lot of bullshit to me. But anyway, I'm really excited, Brittany. This was great. I love it. Can't wait for the Black Widow movie. It looks fantastic. Our man David Harbour is in it. Our girl Scarlett Johansson. Florence Pugh, I'll say. And Rachel Weisz are in it. So it's a absolutely fantastic cast. It looks full of action. It looks espionage. It looks like Winter Soldier-esque. And considering Winter Soldier was my favorite movie, I'm here for it. I'm pumped. Can't wait to watch it. I'll probably watch it at home, which will be my first full movie that I've seen at home, but I don't care. At this point, I just want to see it. So I don't give a shit.
I don't care how. I mean, I feel like at this point, this later on, we would have already had the DVD out. We would have already had the digital version.
You can watch it anyway. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm just glad that they didn't put it on Disney, like, that they stopped being so hard-headed about the Disney Plus part.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who knows what's going on, right? We obviously would have wanted to see it in theaters, duh, of course, but we can't. So I will watch it here at home, and I'll love every freaking minute of it. So there you go. But Brittany, before I let you go today, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, what you got going on, and all that good stuff?
Gonna say, you can always find me at Twitch at Itty Bitty Bread. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Randomizer. I've also got my VR headset set up to where I can wirelessly stream my VR headset now to it, which that reminds me, Tia, the next time I see you, I will buy a carrying case for my VR, and I will put you in VR. Just know you'll get motion sick. Knowing you, 'cause I get motion sick, and we're both little motion sick babies. But I've been playing Half-Life Alyx, and that game is so cool that you can pick up like a marker in the thing, and I can legitimately like hold my hand like it knows the pressure of how hard I'm pushing this pencil or pen. I can say like this marker into the glass to like how thick the line is. VR's getting insane, Tia, which Tia maybe should one day stream if she could get the setup for it, do some Grand Theft Auto 5. Since she's so obsessed with it, it would be a good time.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5 has taken over my life. There has been days where I'm like, I have a lot to do today, but I'm going to play this game. And I'll like sit there and say to myself, say like 11 o'clock. Okay, I'll play for an hour, right? While Paulie cleans. I'll play for an hour. And then I look at my watch, and it's like 6 o'clock at night, and I'm like, fuck. I haven't.
Does it have DLC for it?
A DLC? I'm not sure. I don't know. There's been lots of updates. What did you say?
Like extra content, like downloadable content.
I mean, I think there's been like a lot of like updates, right, that have added things throughout the years. Because the game literally came out in 2013. It's not a new game. It's been out for a really long time now at this point. So it's gone through a lot, but I don't know like a whole lot about it. There is an online version. You can play online, but I much prefer playing the story. But yeah, I'm fucking obsessed. I have not been this obsessed with the game since I was like a teenager playing SSX Tricky. I'm like, holy shit, I'm spending hours on this. But yeah. But anyway, please make sure that you check Brittany out. She's a very dedicated streamer who spends a lot of time, more time than I spend on GTA 5, entertaining everyone. So please make sure you check that out. As for me, you can always find me at TC Stark, TC _Stark on Twitter and Instagram. Please make sure you subscribe to Geek Vibes Podcast on YouTube. We have a lot of great content there. We're only about 40 followers away from reaching 1,000 followers, so that's great. Please make sure you check that out. Please make sure you support the Top 10 because we love what we do. We're here every single week, and we just want to continue being able to do this for a long time coming. But yeah, everyone, make sure that you tell us what your favorite Black Widow moment was from the MCU, and we will both see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.